Hi everyone. So today I am going to go through this presentation on Ethos, Pathos, Logos, and Kairos. These are the basis of rhetoric, and they are very important concepts that are going to be critical to the rest of the course. So building a strong foundation for these concepts now is really important. So I hope that this presentation will help you all have a good understanding of these aspects of argument. So, ethos, pathos, and logos are the three major elements of discourse that Aristotle identified in ancient Greek philosophy, and he considered them the three factors as being the most important determiners of a successful argument. And Kairos is a blanket statement about the timeliness of the argument. We'll get into that in the presentation, but ethos, pathos, and logos are your big three, and Kairos is just thrown in there for fun. So let's continue. So we will begin with ethos, and ethos is a measure of the authority of the speaker, creator, or designer of an argument. The authority of this person can be determined by their credentials, their merit, and if this merit and credibility is socially accepted. So, for credentials, the person making an argument should be well learned in their field. So, for example, if you are attending a conference on biology, you expect the person or people who are speaking to be biologists. You expect them to be people who are either students, people who hold doctorate degrees, or people who have had experience in their field. If you were to see me presenting at a biology conference, you would know that I don't know what I'm talking about, and therefore the arguments that I'm making aren't reliable, because I don't know much about biology. I have good ethos when it comes to English 200, but not when it comes to biology. That sounds scary. So when we consider credibility, we are thinking about what is the education level of this person? Do they have experience in their field? Are they a member of a national association related to that field? And so on and so forth. Furthermore, we want to think about this person's merit. Can we trust them? Do we respect them? If people at the biology conference plagiarized papers, or if they are known to be liars, we're not going to accept their arguments as readily because of their sketchy ethical background. We want to save the agreement in arguments for people that we respect. So that brings us into the socially accepted credibility, and like I said, with credentials. Do they have this advanced degree, something that society has deemed as a marker of expertise? Have they worked in their field for an extended period of time? Or do they hold a strong position in their field? Are they someone that other experts go to? Are they someone who teaches people who want to become experts? These are all important factors that go into a person's ethos. So how can ethos be established in an argument? One way that this can happen is through the person's use of language. Jargon, word choice, and tone are all very important factors of this. So, to use our biology conference as an example, people who use terms that are familiar to biologists are going to be better accepted in their arguments. So phrases like ATP, classification, species, all of those words that fit the field are going to be better accepted. Me trying to come up with words that fit that field is an indication that I don't have ethos for that field. Next, the content of the argument as well. You could tell pretty quickly that if I were at a biology conference that I don't like I said, have any ethos in the matter, because my content would be small, unfamiliar, and would demonstrate zero understanding of relevant events, facts, data, all that. One thing that I could do, though, is assert my ethos through physical space. So the person standing at the front of the room, if they're standing behind a lectern or a podium, if they're holding the center of attention, that person has the respect of the other people in the room or the conference in our example. And this stance, posture, and gesture of this person, if they hold themselves with confidence or not, also add to this aspect. And now we'll move into logos. So logos is about the quality of the argument itself. Is it logical? Is it reasonable? Is it understandable? So not to get too far into formal logic, because that's kind of my specialty, is the argument valid and sound? And do the claims lead to the conclusion? Does the argument make sense in the world as it is? And does the evidence line up with the conclusion that the arguer is making? If they don't, we don't have a logical argument and we shouldn't listen to it. So because of that, the logic in the argument must be clear. The steps that you take to arrive at your conclusion should be followable. If your audience can't understand how you come to the conclusion, if they can't understand why items A, B, and C lead you to conclusion D, they're not going to understand your argument. So it's important that pieces of evidence A, B, and C make sense, are easily recognizable in your argument, and flow to conclusion D. That being said, logos can employ tactics to strengthen the argument. Data and statistics, expert opinion, and quotes, these are elements that are very hard to dispute. You can't dispute hard facts, statistics, and data that's going to be widely respected by people and add to the logos quality of your argument. Logos does tend to be the most difficult element of discourse and rhetoric for students to identify. So it's very important that you review these two slides, maybe do some extra research, or email me if you have any questions, because this does tend to be the difficult aspect for students. So while data and statistics, expert opinion, and quotes can strengthen logos, logos can't exist without these, and I want to make that distinction clear. Just because an argument doesn't have data or statistics does not mean that logos is not present. Maybe logos isn't the most important element of rhetoric in the argument, sure, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. Okay, and now to pathos. So pathos is the emotional response of the audience to the argument. Are they impassioned? Do you produce sadness, rage, joy, fear, other emotions when you give your argument? So pathos needs to be relevant to the audience. If you're speaking to someone who likes to kick puppies for fun, this was an example in one of my pre-law classes. If they like to kick puppies for fun and you want to show them one of ASPCA videos that just makes people cry, it might not work on them, because if they enjoy kicking small puppies for fun, pathos is not the most effective argument to use for them. So they're probably not going to care about the song "In the Arms of an Angel" that plays while you watch sad dogs outside chain defenses. And we're gonna move beyond that, because I'm a sucker for pathos. So how does one establish pathos in their argument? If you're the ASPCA, just keep playing that song and you're doing great. But other ways that you can do it when you write arguments is to include personal anecdotes. If you want to talk about the dangers of drinking and driving, you could use a personal anecdote that explains that when you were 15, your older brother got into a drunk driving accident and died, and induce the audience to feel sadness in that and to agree with you that drinking and driving should be punished more harshly, or whatever your argument is. The use of metaphors, comparisons to bring attention to a point is also an effective way to induce pathos. And then the delivery of the argument itself can inspire people. We see this a lot in speeches. For instance, Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech. You see the videos of people in Washington, D.C. cheering for him. You can tell that that audience is feeling the pathos of Martin Luther King Jr.'s speech. Pathos tends to be the easiest aspect of rhetoric to identify, partially because it is the most effective in most people. So arguments that have these elements that pull at your heartstrings or make you angry or sad, those are easily recognizable, and therefore will probably be one of the easier ones that you run across in our assignments. And then finally, the ugly step sibling of all of the other three is Kairos. It's not generally talked about much before this course. So to give a brief overview of it, it's a relatively easy concept to understand once you do. Kairos is a measure of timeliness, hitting the right advocacy window of your argument. Is this something that's topical? Is society interested in this? For instance, if we were to argue that women should not be forced to wear corsets in public, well, we haven't been forced to wear corsets in public for many, many, many years. So even though it may be an issue to some people, it's not a widely accepted societal issue right now. So most people aren't going to pay any heedance to your argument. So things that you can do to make sure that you are producing a timely argument is to look at the social context and social landscape. Things like Black Lives Matter, feminist movements, police brutality, those are all hot topics in the social world right now. So those are all extremely timely arguments to make. And that is the end of our slideshow. Please email me if you have any questions, and if you need to go over the slides again, please do. As I said, logos tends to be the difficult one, so revisit those slides, look up some definitions online, whatever you need to do. But yeah, that's all for now. Awkward.